And I'll be opening this meeting in honor of Chris. This is our last meeting with you, so just wanted to say a couple things. So first of all, Chris, thank you so much for your service. I think you've been here since I've been here. Thank you for your kindness. Every interaction I've seen you, I've never seen anything but kindness coming from you. Thank you for your patience. You've always been patient, and you always say in the presentations, if we have any questions, you'd meet with us one-on-one for as long as we need to understand. And you've done that, and I appreciate that. And thank you for your hard work. And also thank you for stepping up when we needed an interim superintendent. We came to you with no notice, and you said yes. Thank you for that. So the 5 of us got you a small gift, and I asked Pam what you might like, so she helped us. And then I can't even take any credit for this beautiful wrapping. You can guess who did this, but thank you for everything. And does anyone else have anything to say?
Yes, of course. I was here before Chris, so I've had a chance to work with him the whole time he's been here. Chris, when you joined us, you had big shoes to fill because the prior CBO had did an outstanding job, and you've been terrific. You've just picked up the ball and run with it and kept us informed. And when we said we want 5 years instead of 3, you didn't even bat an eye. You just did what we asked you to do. Stepping up to be the interim superintendent for us was wonderful. So good luck in the East Side, and all the best to you, and we're going to miss you.
So Chris, thank you for the years of service. And like Soma said, I echo everything she said. You have always been very patient with all of my questions. And thank you so much. I wish you a very good new, I think you are going to a very good district. So I wish you all the best.
I guess being last, I get to say I echo everybody's thank you for serving the district, and I'm so glad I got the opportunity to work with you. And I'm hoping we'll see you around somewhere, because you're still in the county, not going too far, and all the best at Eastside.
Yeah. Okay, so we're ready for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and for the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Employee of the Month. Can we have Girija? What? No. They're not here? Oh, that's okay. Should we? Is it from your school, Kirsten? Oh, okay. Well, I'll just read. Since they're probably watching from home, this person has worked hard all year, so there's no reason not to announce their great work. This is for Girija Rao. Oh, wait, it says what Girija Rao wrote. Sorry. Yeah. I'm so sorry. About Bao. Yeah. But it doesn't say.
Yeah, it's Bao and Bao.
I know, but what's Bao's last name?
Nguyen.
Bao Nguyen. I'm so sorry. Okay, Bao Nguyen. This is what was written. Bao has been very helpful with repairing the iPads for our staff and students. He also helps us with audio-video issues across the district. He is prompt with resolving the tickets. It is time we recognize his work. So thank you, Mr. Bao Nguyen, for your hard work. And we have some presents for you. So where should he pick those up? If he's watching. From Renee. So you'll reach out and let them know and give them our congratulations. Thank you very much. Okay, and this write-up you can put in there too. Okay, so next item is board agenda approval. So before we have a motion, we have any changes to the said agenda?
Sorry, we do have a few changes. The first one is item 5.9, which is the revision to Measure H bond program. Because we have a presentation on that topic, we're going to shift that, we want to pull that, put it as an action item so we can hear the presentation that's on there, to get it in order, so you've heard the presentation before you're voting on it. So that's 5.9, and move it all the way to action if we could. 5.18 minutes, we have just a quick thing to share, so hopefully we can pull it but still vote on it if it makes sense to do right afterwards. And then item 7.1, It turns out, this is the math placement policy, and it turns out that we did not, we had the attachment posted to the administrative area, which means the public did not see it. And so we really can't discuss it because they didn't have a chance to see it. So we'll pull it completely and bring it back in August. And I think those were all of the items.
Okay, so may I have a motion to approve the agenda as stated with Craig's changes of moving 5.9 to an action item, pulling 5.18 and voting on it separately, and pulling 7.1 altogether?
So moved.
I would
Oh, yeah.
So I would still like to pull the minutes for April 27th to have it revised maybe later.
And we're going to
Uh,
pull those and talk about them.
I think I'll work with Renee to
Oh,
revise
so you'd
that.
prefer to pull it and ask that we bring it back
Yeah,
next time?
Yeah, I need to check what exactly I said.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we'll pull that all together then. Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion,
I second.
and Phyllis seconds. And all those in favor? Aye. Motion passes 4-1-0-0-1. Because Chris,
Absent. She's
yeah,
absent.
4-0-1. Yeah, one absent. Okay. All right. So let's move on with the agenda then. Do we have any communication from employee organizations today? Okay. Public comments? Hi, Greg. Okay, first is Greg. And for anyone who hasn't been here to a board meeting before, we will be listening to public comments. Each person has 3 minutes to speak. As a board, we won't be responding to what the content is, but we do appreciate people coming and voicing their opinions to us. Thank you. Greg?
Thank you. I'm Greg Cohen. My interest remains community engagement, and I served on West Valley SSC this year to work on representing our diverse parent voices. It was a challenging year. In summary, West Valley SSC does not abide by its bylaws. Even though the principal was aware of this, she never had SSC update them during her 3-year tenure. She also knowingly misrepresented SSC's role to the public, the district, and the state in our SPSA filing. The key takeaway is the district needs to establish minimum standards, better training, and greater oversight at each school. There are multiple stories worth relating. I will limit myself to 2. During the election, one candidate submitted a statement nearly 50% over the word limit. When I raised the issue with Principal Robinson, she offered me the single remedy to write an equally long statement. Of all the ways this issue might have been resolved, I did not expect the principal to encourage me to cheat. Out of fairness to the other candidates, I declined her offer and was elected through honest means. Once elected, SSC reps are allowed access to the bylaws. In reading them, I realized one of our elected reps was ineligible to serve. This was material. I notified Principal Robinson of the issue and was once again taken aback by her response. She said she would enforce the bylaws if I wanted, but would also invalidate the entire election since, per the bylaws, she chose to conduct the election at the wrong time of year. In business speak, she offered me a poison pill, which says a lot about how she uses her authority. But the true issue is not what she offered me, but that she offered me the choice to solely decide the fate of SSC. Let me repeat that. She gave me the choice to dissolve SSC. Personally, I know of no pattern of governance where the individual who reports a compliance issue is handed the power to decide the resolution. Our SSC has no real process to guide it, and our principal had no foundation from which to formulate a value-based solution. When I encouraged her to adopt a process, she declined. We have a long way to go to make SSC an effective vehicle for stakeholder participation, to build a culture that values transparency and openness and is competently governed. I will be meeting with the district to discuss how to improve governance and setting standards at the site level. I ask you, the board, to follow up on this issue with staff. We have a new superintendent who has welcomed community involvement, and we will be stronger if we can all work together to best serve our students and stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Our next speaker is Jason Boengra. Please correct it if I said it wrong. I'm sorry. Okay. Bocanegra. Sorry about that.
Good evening. My name is Jason Bocanegra. I've been employed with the Cupertino Union School District for 25 years in the maintenance department. I am here in response to the news of the proposed dismissal of my director, Toby Smith. I worked under Toby Smith for 18 years, and during this time, I have seen that he possesses management qualities that are essential to our district. One is a management skill known as walking around. My experience in these years is that Toby knows his staff and interacts with us on a regular basis. He knows us all by name and never fails to acknowledge our presence with a hello or have a great evening. He has also gotten to know us personally and always takes time to listen to issues we may be experiencing. In exhibiting this interpersonal skill, we feel valued and that he cares for us. He views us as a part of a family and often tells us that. When you have a boss, especially a director, that treats us in this manner, you want to do all you can for them, and we do. Although our departments are short-staffed with tight budgets, we will go the extra mile for him when needed. This is just one of the many qualities he possesses that benefit the district. Because Toby is personable and approachable, he gets the most out of his staff, a quality and skill the district can't do without. So I would respectfully ask you to carefully consider my remarks and this petition of 73 signatures in making the right decision for Toby Smith. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jason. Our next speaker is Lori Cunningham.
Hi, good evening. My name is Lori Cunningham. I'm the Site Council Chair at Montclair, as many of you know. And I just wanted to take this opportunity tonight to say thank you to the district. We have been advocating, I think, through our Safe Routes committees, both in the elementary school as well as the middle school, and in partnership with the Safe Routes Committee at Homestead High School for a long time now for some relief through the Homestead corridor. As many of you know, there have been multiple accidents that have happened in the last several years involving collisions with students that have resulted in significant injuries. Through a series of efforts, through Safe Routes leaders raising the concerns, through the high school committee and the dean of students there raising concerns, I was able to meet with Joe Smitty and our county supervisors starting last fall, and to ask him for his help. And so over the last several months, we have been able to put together a proposal that is going to the county tomorrow for a $100,000 line item in one-time funds to contract with a technical facilitator to develop a multi-jurisdictional, including the cities of Cupertino, Los Altos, Sunnyvale, the county of Santa Clara, our school district, the high school district, as well as Safe Routes leaders and concerned stakeholders to implement or to work together, to collaborate together on a concept plan to address our safety concerns through the Homestead corridor. That $100,000 budget inventory item goes to the county board tomorrow. I know that in working with Supervisor Smidian's office, they asked the district for a letter of support last week, and I just really appreciate how fast you got that out and turned around. And to them, thank you to Leslie and to Dr. Baker and to Mike Cellini, the principal at CMS, for your efforts there. And after that passes, we look forward to some real progress for safety for kids. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Lori. Okay, I will now open the public hearing for the approval of CASP apportionment waiver at 6:15 p.m.
No comments?
I'll close the public hearing at 6:16 p.m. Moving on to the consent items. I need a motion. We'll be taking that includes taking out item 5.9 and 5.18.
I so move.
Anjali moves. May I have a second?
I second.
Phyllis second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Okay, so 5.9 is now action. 5.18 is pulled and will be revisited at the next meeting, correct? Okay, so we can move out of consent. 6.1, we have some guests tonight. Is anybody introducing them, or should I? Or they introduce themselves? Okay, thank you for coming. Happy to have you here.
Grateful for that. And President Murphy, you know him as well. I know you've spoken to him a number of times, as do you, is moving on after 14 years, and we wish him all the best. So thank you so much again for having us here today. We just would like to, and have decided to make this fairly consistent, maybe every year, every other year, coming and just informing you about the college right here in your own local community. We hope you're familiar with us. We hope you're familiar with the fact that we are indeed tops in transfer. That's a relatively new tagline for us. And last night, though, we had our own board meeting, and because my office comes up with this, we are very gratified to see a student come to the microphone, and she said, "I chose De Anza because it's tops in transfer." So you know you've made some progress when a student spontaneously lets you know that. We greet you with our billboards with this information. I know you've seen that, and we heavily advertise because it really is in many ways what draws students to De Anza College. The "and more" really is meant to indicate that not only are we tops in transfer, and we will carry this forward as a tagline, but also tops in workforce preparation, career training as well. One of the things we're the most proud of here at De Anza College is just the level of diversity on our campus. It is something that we see as an asset each and every day. And we are just pleased to provide that environment where students learn from each other. They learn from their instructors, but probably not even as much as they do learn for each other. If we have people here, I think all of our board members, their colleagues, but folks in the audience planning for your own children's higher education, this is really a meaningful slide to us, and then I know Christina can elaborate on this too. I mean, when you look at this, this is tuition and fees, annual, almost $14,000 for UC, and if your child goes there, she or he will live in a dorm, live in off-campus housing. Most likely true of CSU at about $7,200, but De Anza College will give you that very same first 2 years of education at the price of $1,515 a year. Do you want to speak about the choices you made for your own children?
Yeah.
Because
So as she said, I live here in Cupertino. So my children went to Garden Gate, and then after Garden Gate to Lawson, and then after Lawson they went to Monte Vista, and they had dream schools like most children do. So we took them on the little road trip. They picked schools that they really wanted. They didn't get into those dream schools out of Monte Vista. So they had a choice. They got accepted to other four-year institutes that shall go unnamed. And I said to them, you know, there's always the place I work. It's been around. It has a great reputation. You know, you could live here with your dad and I. We could save more money. and we could probably get you out of that dream school in 2 years debt-free. It worked out for us. My daughter's dream was to go to USC. It's got a great film school. She got into USC out of De Anza. It's a $50,000 a year private school. So we just had enough to get her out, barely, but she got out debt-free. So she did her first 2 years at De Anza and then transferred to USC. Our son, same decision, waited and just graduated from Berkeley about 3 weeks ago. So he went on to Berkeley out of De Anza, saved us a lot of money. And these fees, I just wanted to say that what I think a lot of our own parents don't understand or realize, these don't include the cost of the dorm, the food, the books, the lab fees, the going out fees, and trust me, they'll be asking you for those fees. So it's a really, really great institution. My children love that they had the extra 2 years, and actually shared that for them, they've reflected on this. My daughter is now 25 and a half and has said, you know, it was the best decision I made. I really wasn't ready for college life. I was very sheltered at Monte Vista and within the Cupertino school system, which is a good thing as far as I'm concerned. And I'm glad that I went to De Anza first. It just gave me a little bit of time to grow up, and I felt really ready to leave when I did. So I just want to share that with you. Thank you.
And I'll share with you just, again, about my colleague and friend. Christina currently is the Vice President of Instruction. But almost 4 decades ago, I know you don't like it when I say that, but you began as a community volunteer onto a student employee to going to De Anza College and going through school herself. So we just like to make that point about Christina. So I believe you have heard of at least a couple of these programs. You don't get to be Thompson transfer without having excellent academics. You simply don't. I mean, that's recognized at all of our transfer institutions, Berkeley, USC. Auto tech, for one thing, if you get your car fixed around here, and I know you do, you in all likelihood have a De Anza College auto tech graduate working on your car, and we're always proud to let folks know that. Another aspect, this is a program we are extremely proud of. An anthropology instructor at De Anza College who is deeply affiliated with the Leakey Institute in Africa annually takes students on an expedition to Kenya. He has recently made on his own with the group he was working with a remarkable fossil discovery. That was on the cover of Science last year. So we have that caliber of instructor, again, teaching at De Anza College. This year, too, Dr. Nengo is taking some community members along with him on a trip. So we like that, you know, that ability to work with our community in that way as well. The Public Policy School takes students to both the state and national capital to advocate on whatever is important for them. And so we are proud to help them be able to do that. You know, believe it or not, as great as De Anza is, not everything is perfect down our way. We don't imagine it is here your way either, but certainly we do the best we can with trends that we know you're facing as well here in Cupertino. The housing costs, we know that's having an effect on our ability to recruit, number one, to recruit additional teachers. And, you know, for our students, some of them don't live at home, and to cobble together the rent with a number of roommates is not always the easiest thing. Christina cannot comment on the increased commute times, but I can. I live about 40 miles north of here, and it's a lot worse. I mean, it really is. I'm going to guess that several of you do this as well. This I could vouch for, the average of an additional 43 minutes. And same thing, effect on recruitment, affecting our students who don't live locally. Now this I know Cupertino Union is dealing with as the birth rates have leveled off. 18 years ago was the peak, and I know all of you are looking at those projections as well. So we at De Anza have to think about what that means for us too, going forward. So not only though are we your local college, and a couple of these figures, despite what Christina told you, may still surprise you. The top choice, more students choose De Anza as a group than any other graduating from the local high school district, her children being two of those. This just speaks to the graduation totals, 3% fewer. And we saw a commensurate 3% reduction in our local attendees, but that actually went up a little bit this year, so we're interested in that. They chose De Anza anyway, and we need to look into that just a bit more. So this is something, did I hear, Chris, you're going to East Union, or to, where are you headed? East Side, okay. So we are also the #1 choice for that school district, by the way, that one and San Jose Unified. So not only are we local to you here in Cupertino, but we are a regional institution, very much so as well. So we hope maybe you just learned a thing or two about De Anza. We can certainly answer any questions you might have. We could also let you get to the rest of our agenda, so your agenda. So any questions, we're happy to hear them.
Thank you so much for coming and for the presentation. Do any of my fellow board members have any questions? Thank you again. Oh, Liang, sorry, I didn't see you. Go ahead.
I'm curious, the college planning committee, is that a committee inside the De Anza? What's the what members are a part of that committee?
Well, the College Planning Committee is a subcommittee of our college final decision-making body, which is college council. And so and actually both of us are members of that committee, and we look at many things such as those statistics we were just talking about. We do, we review the mission statement. We look at what factors are affecting enrollment. We do many things. So it's a local to the college subcommittee of our district.
It's kind of like a strategic planning committee for the college. And the members are staff of the college.
Yes.
Does that include the students or parents or community members?
There are student members. We tend not, for that type of committee, to solicit external members, but you know that's certainly always something we could entertain within the bylaws.
How about alumni?
I'm sorry?
How about alumni? Students who graduate, maybe they can provide perspective on what would work in the workforce.
That's always a possibility, too, that we would entertain. We look at a lot of data in that committee, but we welcome all kinds of expertise. We have guests come and visit, and, you know, that's always, I'll take that idea back, and we can think that through and say it came from here.
So I'm curious, in terms of the capacity, how many students you have, so have that compared with 10 years ago? Do you have any?
I can speak to it, or you can.
So 10 years ago, we probably had closer to 22,000. Oh, sorry. 10 years ago, we probably had closer to 22,000 students. We're now down to 18.
And we're aware that that's due to all those factors that we're sharing with you, all of those community challenges.
So how much funding do you get per student? Do you cover, I'm sorry, I'm curious with.
So for a full-time student, we get about $5,300 per student. And that is a full-time student taking 12 units.
Okay.
And that's less than you get here. I mean, we need to point that out, but we get less per student funding than any of the segments, including K-12.
So what
percentage? Last question, and then we're going to move on.
Sorry, I'm very curious. So what percentage of the students come from the college district that we have? Because I heard you draw a lot of students from out of district.
I was right in the presentation. She showed that.
just to answer that in round numbers, it's about a third of the students, but without those regional students, we hope everyone understands we would not be able to offer that full complement. You know, Deanne's would be very small if it were only the local students attending.
So we are drawing from the district of other community college.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. It's
Thank you very
you very
much for coming.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have Nicole and her staff on our favorite student nutrition.
No fruits today?
I thought there wasn't, but look.
She always brings treats.
I was like, what is she doing?
That is so great.
What is it today?
These are nectarines.
Oh my God, it looks so
These
good.
are ones that we served in the cafeteria.
I'm gonna wait for it. Thank you, though.
Thank you. I still remember your
Thank you.
basket of fruits.
Yes.
I can't remember what the fruit was, but it was great. Chopstick or whatever.
That's pretty nice.
It's the little thing.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Nicole Mesky. I'm the Director of Student Nutrition for Cupertino Union School District.
I'm Divya Puri, the Supervisor for Nutrition Services.
Thanks for having us tonight. We just wanted to give you a quick student nutrition update of some of the things that we've been working on this year and our plans for next year.
Thanks, Nicole. So I'm going to start by giving you a brief overview of our department. We are a team of 55 employees. That includes supervisors, cafeteria assistants, warehouse delivery guys, and office support. Together, all of us serve 25 school sites, a preschool, and also provide district-wide catering. Our current budget for this year is $8.9 million, and we are currently a self-supporting program. So as far as the meals served are concerned, and my math is not very strong, so correct me if I go wrong. For last school year, we served about 117,000 breakfasts, 800,000 lunches, and for this school year, up till April, we had 96,000 breakfasts and about 700,000 lunches in total. So as far as daily production of meals is concerned, our central kitchen provides meals to all 20 elementary schools. On a daily average, we serve 3,000 lunches per day, and 3 of our elementary schools offer breakfast. So we offer about 170 breakfasts per day to 3 elementary schools. Our 5 middle schools are self-prep sites, which mean that they prep and pack their own foods. So the 5 middle schools prepare about 1,400 lunches per day and about 450 breakfasts every day. So these are the requirements that we follow when we plan a menu. In 2010, the Healthy Hunger-Free Kids Act went into effect, and that gave USDA a big chance to reform the school breakfast and school lunch program. So USDA came up with really strict regulations, and some of them are listed here. We have calories, fat, we have a zero trans fat policy, we have to follow sodium, the kind of meat we offer, the amount of meat we offer, the kind of grains we have to offer, all are controlled by these regulations. We have to offer half a cup of fruit every day and almost 3/4 cups of vegetables every day. So what makes up for a lunch? Our current price for elementary and middle school lunches is $3.25, and at that price point, we offer a choice of entree, fruit, vegetable, a choice of milk, and sometimes also include a side item. Our middle schools offer about 7 to 8 entrees every single day, and there is a vegetarian choice every single day on the menu. Our milk, we offer 2 choices, non-fat flavored and 1% 1% flavored. Sorry, 1% unflavored and non-fat flavored for all our schools.
So we wanted to talk to you a little bit about what we've been working on this year. So some of the things we've been focusing on is Harvest of the Month, and this is a program that we offer on our elementary menu where we highlight a local fresh fruit or vegetable, and we offer it in the cafeteria. So this has been fun to try to introduce some new fruits and vegetables to our kids. We had what's called an administrative review, which is our review from the Department of Ed Nutrition Services, and we had a perfect, no findings at all, so that was stressful but great outcome. We did a lot of taste testing this year and sampling. We are working with Palo Alto Medical Foundation, and they are providing through a grant at El Camino Hospital to send over a person to offer some sampling of fresh fruits and vegetables during recess and lunch breaks at 4 elementary schools. And so we've been able to offer some different things like beets and rainbow carrots, mini peppers, things that kids don't get to try all the time, watermelon radishes. So that's been a fun thing to continue to do. We also are going to be able to provide that next year too. This year we've tried really hard to buy locally as much as possible. Locally meaning with 250 miles of Cupertino, which is a little bit hard sometimes, but definitely not hard to buy within the state of California. Most of the produce that we offer in schools comes from California. We're lucky to live in this state. And with Leslie's help, we started a wellness policy committee, and that went really well. We had lots of meetings, lots of people interested, and that was a good outcome from that. Also, as mandated from the state, we have developed a charge procedure for kids that come to the cafeteria that don't have lunch money, and what will we do? So we continue to have our same policy that we've had. We feed all kids. We want kids to be fed, whether they have money or not, and then we take it up with the parents at a later date. This is some of our tastings. We wanted to have you guys see what we sampled this year. These are the rainbow carrots. This is the kids get to vote with their cup. I liked it, I loved it, I liked it, and not today. So not I don't like it, but not today. So we encourage them to vote, and then we tally up the votes. We send them to the principal so that they can let the kids in the whole school know whether or not kids liked that fruit or vegetable. So these are some of the things we offered this year. The Fuyu persimmons were pretty popular. It was interesting, the grapefruit, I didn't know if it would go well, but we had a lot of takers on the grapefruit. It was pretty popular. So some of the things we're working on for next year, we're really trying to increase points of service at our middle schools. Our middle schools are big. We're usually located in the cafeteria. We'd like to try to get out and see how we can service more kids that don't want to come all the way to the cafeteria to eat. So we'll be doing some planning over the summer about what that looks like around technology and moving food across the campus. We would like to try to offer some more grab-and-go items so a student could pick something up. It's in a container that they could stand up and eat it or stand with their friends, that they wouldn't have to sit down and find somewhere to sit. We're always trying to increase student participation. That's our goal every year. We will be working on some allergy-specific menus. This is becoming more and more of a popular topic. We have more kids that have allergy issues, and so we are going to try to develop a gluten-free menu. We already don't offer peanuts in the district, so we are seeing more nut allergies, dairy and egg, at least being able to offer easy to identify ways for parents that have students with those allergies of what they can and can't eat when they come to the cafeteria. We're also going to be implementing what's called a flavor station at the middle schools. So when the new regulations came out, sodium became very strict, and so a lot of the seasonings have been removed in order to meet those sodium requirements. So what we have done is identified additional flavors that kids can add to their food without increasing their sodium. So we'll be setting up what's called a flavor station outside of the serving line. After the kids pick up their food, they can go to the flavor station and top their whatever they've chosen with additional spices, basically, is what they'll be. Some of our challenges, increasing costs, personnel costs, food costs, gas costs, all significantly affect what we do versus trying to increase our revenue, and you saw some of the plans we have for trying to increase our revenue. Our kitchen facilities, you know, our elementary kitchens are small. They don't have facilities in order to prepare food there, so it is all transported from the central kitchen. And we have just limited service areas. So all of our elementary schools have a window that serve out to the playground, so that kind of limits how we deliver food in those locations. Our central kitchen is located at Stockelmeyer. So it's an older kitchen that hasn't been remodeled. It's a very small area that a very large number of people work in every day to produce those 3,000 meals. So it's a challenge to work out of there, but we're making it work the best that we can. We've tried some new equipment this year and moving things around to try to see if we can shift some space. Modernization, we don't have any modernization happening in kitchens over this summer, which is a break for a little bit, but we will have quite a few happening in the next summer. Waste is always a big challenge for us, is how do we get kids to eat what we give them in the short amount of time that we give them to eat, and how do we continue to look at waste as a reflection of what we're offering and whether or not it's acceptable to the kids, and we take that very serious. It's one of the very first things we look at when we go to a campus is what is in the garbage can. And then time. serving, eating, playing. It's a hard choice when you're an elementary school kid. They'd rather play than eat, and then they're hungry. So that, you know, give and take, there's just not that much time to do all the three of those things. Definitely one of our goals is staying self-supporting and not encroaching on the general fund. And then the last thing we added here was parents' expectation versus kids' reality. So we have a lot of parents that, you know, well, why don't you do this? And then what the reality of what kids will actually do when they're away from parents. So we appreciate what parents say and want for their kids, and we appreciate what kids will actually choose and eat at school. So how do we balance that? And we work on that every single day. So that's a challenge, but it's also a goal for us to continue to balance that. And that is it. That is how you can get a hold of us. If you have any other additional questions, we're happy to answer anything. Now, those are nectarines that we did serve in the cafeteria. It's great that stone fruit comes in season right at the end of school, so kids have been enjoying apricots, peaches, and nectarines the last 2 weeks before school got.
Thank you, Nicole and Divya. I want to ask if my fellow board members have any questions.
Thank you. I always enjoy what you bring in. It's nice to see the changes that have happened over the years. Every time it's good to hear a presentation from you.
Leanne, go ahead. And then Phyllis.
Thank you so much for the presentation. And I see that you have a lot of interesting choices for the kids. So I'm wondering how much the increase in terms of budget that you are having, I mean, expenses this year versus before. You mentioned personnel and cost and gas.
How much they've increased?
Yeah.
I don't know off the top of my head. I could get that information and give it back to you, but obviously, you know, expenses increase every year. Just the price of gas alone drives up food costs significantly.
So the price of lunch has stayed at $3.50.
So it's $3.25 right now. In the last year, we raised it to $3. So the last 2 years, we've had a price increase. This year, there is no price increase for this upcoming year.
We are not expecting a price increase for the upcoming year.
Not for this next school year, not for 18-19.
I don't have a question, I just have a comment.
So
Go ahead, Phyllis, and then I have some questions, and then we can go
Okay,
back.
so I just have a comment. Having worked in the schools as many years as I did, I know how the challenge to find healthy food that kids will actually eat, and I think you do an amazing job of doing that, and I thank you.
Thank you very much.
So I had a couple. I enjoyed the treat. Thank you for the nectarine. So I know you don't make the rules about what to limit, but there's no regulation right now on how much sugar is in the diet. Okay. And is that coming? Do you know?
I don't think so.
Okay. And then the next one is for breakfast. Is that only for like schools that have a large population requiring the free and reduced? So we don't actually sell breakfast for profit at other schools?
We don't offer breakfast at all of the elementary schools. We do at all the middle schools. They eat it at break time at 10 o'clock. But the 3 elementaries are the especially needy schools.
Yeah. Okay. And then also I just wanted to comment also, I liked that what we tasted, where they try different things and they put it in they get to vote on what that was nice. So thank you. Okay, Liang.
So I am wondering about how much extra veggies that's left over they don't eat, and what do we do with the leftover, and how much extra I know that you don't really know how many kids are going to eat every day, so you have an estimate. Do you face the case you have to prepare something extra and then they don't get purchased? And I see that there are other lunch programs where they have parents pre-order, so this week my kid will eat on this day, so that you have a better, it might reduce waste, maybe reduce cost. So I'm just wondering.
So we don't have a lot of waste on what we produce. We're pretty good guessers, and that's what we kind of have to be. They raise their hand in the morning of who's eating lunch, but we've already actually prepared and packed those meals the day before. And we are very data driven. We look at the menu item, we know what's popular and what is going to bring a higher lunch count, and so we make sure that we have more of those items and what things are not as popular but more steady. and that's how we predict how much to produce. We also have freezers at the elementary schools so that they can pull something out in case for some reason a whole bunch of kids show up that day. But we're pretty good at predicting how many kids need to come. So we don't have a lot of waste around production. The waste comes around what kids don't eat after they take it away from the cafeteria. And that's for a lot of reasons. Could be that it's a big portion of food, especially for a small child. It could be time or them making a choice that they'd rather now go play. They didn't want to finish eating. They've taken something and they've just decided not to eat it. So that's where we see most of our waste.
Thank you. And
Thank you.
we will contact you or through Craig if we have other questions.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Okay, so our next item is the updated Measure H bond program implementation plan. This is an information item.
Good evening, Dr. Baker, members of the board, executive cabinet. My name is Travis Kirk. I'm happy to bring you the informational update for our bond program implementation plan. This is an information item to bring you up to speed on where we are currently, some changes that we've made, mostly the chronology of events, which will lead to presenting this to you for approval in the August board meeting. What I've done recently, since we've switched construction management firms, I've kind of taken control of what is our BMET program, which is a giant accounting tool to track all of our projects line item by line item. I spent a week or so going through that and reconciling that down to the penny. So we know exactly where everything is, which we should at all times anyway. But took it a step further to say, well, what are the projects that we've done? What are the sites that we've touched where we've done everything we said we're going to do? And we can say, okay, for Measure M, barring someone saying, let's go put a playground in or something, we're done at that site. So we can take this $220 million bond with $1,900,000 in interest, and we can reduce that down to just the few sites that have yet to be impacted that are currently being impacted. And so with that, with the bond list revision that you'll be presented with tonight, it would zero out all of these sites that you see here on this slide. If we come back in the fall with a bond list revision number 16, we would be able to reconcile and completely close out Cupertino, Kennedy, and Miller. So then you could add those to the list of schools that we've done, everything that was on their list that we said we would do within their budget without stealing from others down the road. These are the sites that have either a project ongoing or that will start in the October timeframe. Montclair, as you know, we let that contractor go. We did implement, per board approval, lease back. We have negotiated a price with Block Construction for that work to commence and be completed over the summer months. An abatement contractor is on there now. They found a little more than they thought they were going to find, so we're overcoming that obstacle. Plans for Faria are now out of DSA. The others are getting close. So we are still waiting on DSA on those. So we look forward to beginning these projects in October. Interim housing for these projects, Montclair, of course, it's already in place, but the other 5, that's ongoing right now. So those units are being placed at the sites to accommodate the modernization schedule. Sites with projects in 2019, and this pretty much wraps up the Measure H other than district-wide items. Blue Hills, which, as you know, we're waiting on figuring out what we're going to do there exactly. Collins, Eaton, Lawson, and Murdoch-Pertell, none of those jobs are over about $1.5 million, so they're all very small in nature, and so we'll do the best we can to provide some good things within the language of the bond for them. Here's our fund balance. Original bond authority is $220 million. Series A, B, and C bond sales total $204,995,000. Interest to date as of bond list revision 15, which you'll see later this evening, $1,943,646. We have spent and/or encumbered $183 million and change. Current money in the bank is $23,885,000. And then Series D, which will probably begin discussions on that as in the future, and that's $15,005,000. and we want to configure that bond sale, that series sale, around the need. You don't want to sell it too soon because you're supposed to pay it or spend it down within 36 months. So we will time that. If it gets to be that the projects that are starting in October are over budget by a fair amount, and we tap into the rest of our contingency, and you say, okay, well, we probably need that money, then toward the end of that might be a good time to sell Series D. Other than that, you could wait just a little bit longer. A few other things before I head to the questions. Things that are going well for us is we're saving about $350,000 per job on construction management fees. We've reconfigured the level of services we need, did the RFP, we had a good response, and those folks are on board. So that's money that can go right back into construction costs. Construction costs are escalating double-digit year after year, so that gets absorbed pretty quickly. Some of our jobs, we didn't spend it all the way down to zero, and so we'll be able to roll that money back into the contingency account. One job in particular, which you'll see Montclair is a fair amount over budget, over the allocated budget, but we learned a lesson when I first got here of rescoping DeVargas and Dilworth. I think we lost some money in that effort by paying consultants to rescope this. So for us, it was more prudent to tap into the contingency and do what we planned on doing, and so that's where we are with that. The bid climate right now, for Montclair, we're fortunate. It's a little steep, but we were able to get contractors to bid something, to the lease back. It's an open book bid, which is very nice. I received a binder from Block Construction that had everyone's bid in it. If they had multiple bids, it is all open book, so we get to see what the bids are. We know exactly what their markup is, so that is the benefit to that project delivery method, is you get to really have the open book and look and see where is the money. Where does it compare to last year? What are the things that escalated dramatically, and how do we mitigate that? One big expense for us is carpet. We may be able to mitigate that by purchasing the carpet ourselves through a CMAS contract and then just hiring the labor. So we're looking at every avenue to save money and just actually put more money into construction. I spoke with school facility consultants of Sacramento today who handle our matching fund applications to OPSC. We do have 4. We're on the list for 4. And those 4 total $5.1 million in matching money. So current governor is not real big on the Prop 51, so he's still, with his May revise, at about $640 million in statewide bond sales, which is really kind of a slow roll for $9 billion. So the word on the street and from the legislative committee that I was a part of until recently is that both candidates for governor right now are in support of school facility bonds. So that's good news for us. So Cash and other lobbyists that are up there are pushing to have a $1.5 billion sale perhaps next year, which would move us up the list quicker. The other upside for us on the matching fund list is there's more money currently available for modernization than there is for new construction. New construction is basically encumbered at this point. So we're looking pretty good there. Things that have changed on the program implementation plan is really just the sequencing. Blue Hills is on hold currently. We've pushed the 5 projects off a little bit because we're waiting on DSA, and then we're finishing up Montclair. And so with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you for the presentation. And thank you.
All the good slides.
Yeah. And you didn't bring us treats either. No, but
No, we want.
yeah. Sorry. But no, I was gonna compliment you. I think you might have answered Phyllis's question that she always asks before she even asks it. So, does anyone have
confirmation? Yes, I have that question.
Yes. Okay. So
my
would you
question
like to go
is,
first? Yes, please.
Are we going to satisfy everything we promised the voters within budget?
Yes, and that's where I start every presentation.
Yes, but I just wanted you to say it one more time.
Absolutely.
Okay.
She wants our large audience to see you answering that question.
All the hordes
TV.
that are watching it on TV, I want them to know.
I know my wife's home probably taking screenshots.
Yeah. And I actually have two more things,
Okay,
if
please.
I can go ahead. I really appreciate what you're doing at both Montclair and McAuliffe, because those have both been high need areas for the last couple of years with a lot of problems. And thank you for moving forward with those, and I hope we're successful in mitigating all the problems that were in those two schools. And I'm wondering if all of the upcoming projects, do you expect the strategy will be lease back, or do you, or do you think there'll be a mixture?
The 5 coming up, because they're $3 to $5 million, I would anticipate lease back. Anything under $1 million is probably better for us to go design, bid, build, low bidder. And then those ones we typically would manage in-house too, so we wouldn't incur construction management fees for the smaller projects.
When you talk about the lowest bidder, though, we have a vetted list that we use, right? So
Yes,
we know that they're, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Liang, any question?
So I think you touched a little bit. So we expect to use lease back for the 5 new construction. Do we expect to get good qualified bidders? You said there is a book that you are satisfied with the kind of companies who applied.
So we went through an extensive RFP, RFQ process for lease-back contractors. We selected 2 that we presented to the board that were approved, which was Lathrop Construction and Block Construction. Block Construction has a stellar reputation in this whole area, and they are local. They have 245 subcontractors in their pool to get bids from, and it was remarkable that they got as many bids as they did in June for a June job in this market. It was unbelievable. And so so they have a pool of qualified subcontractors. So we choose Block. That's who we choose as our lease-back contractor. They go out and get multiple bids for each trade. They put all those bids in a binder. They hand me that binder, and I can look through it.
Julie? Oh, one more? Okay, go ahead.
So I'm just wondering, the problem we saw this year was the time that they didn't complete in time over summer. So what we have put in place to prevent that from happening?
What we put in place was, one is I did an individual contract for the asbestos abatement so that contractor could start right when school let out. So they're over there in the Star Building right now doing that abatement. Unfortunately, we found more asbestos than what was on the report, so we're overcoming that obstacle currently. But we got them out in front of Block Construction. Then what we did was we hired Block Construction, and we told them how important it is that this job get done over the summer. They're the biggest and the best in this entire area, and if anyone's capable of doing it, it's them. Another thing I might add is the cabinets for the Star Building, not the two double portables up on the hill, but the cabinets in the Star Building, the main building we're working on this summer, are already there. They're on site. They were fabricated by the last contractor. So now this contractor has hired that subcontractor to come put them in. So that's your longest lead item. That's the thing that would take the longest to say, oh, I have a contract, I'm ordering cabinets, fabricating cabinets, delivering cabinets, installing. They're already there, except for the 2 double portables. They'll be making those.
I guess what I meant is, in case something happened, they couldn't finish by the time they originally planned. Is there any fine or something we can hold them accountable for the delay? Because I know we had such a rush.
In every contract, we have what's called liquidated damages. So any delays a contractor has, it extends the overall schedule. And if those delays aren't justified through finding termites or some unforeseen condition or extreme weather in some cases, if they're not justified delays, then we charge them liquidated damages. And that could be $5,000 a day. It could be $10,000 a day on a big job. It could be less than that on a smaller job. So there is a penalty, and it's liquidated damages.
Anjali, any question? Okay, thank you so much.
Can I take a moment to thank Allison Lavara? She has been so patient most of the time for all this that goes on. This was a big struggle, and I know that she was new there, new to the community, and she really has been a saint and very, very patient with all of this, because this did not go smoothly. Typically, jobs I'm involved with go smoothly, so this did not, and I appreciate her patience.
If you're watching, Allison, thank you.
Oh, I'm sure she is.
Thank you. So we also have moved this from the consent to an action item, right? But right now it's
No,
an
not that.
information item.
It's a different number.
That was the 5.9, so we'll do that at action.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's why we moved it.
Okay.
But, yeah.
I don't know why I decided to close my computer.
So we're going to 7.2 next.
Yeah, so we'll be moving to 7.2, which is discussion of board policy.
So while Leslie is getting ready, I'll just point out that this is a kind of a different way of going about policy development. Note that we're not really, it's not a first read. We're not discussing the specifics of the particular policies, but we're bringing a few for you to note so that we can this summer write some new ones that we bring back. So we're really trying to do this from a conceptual basis on the topic of how we go about selecting instructional materials. So again, hopefully we won't get too bogged down in wordsmithing conversations, because as you'll know, we didn't even bring a revised policy to look at. We wanted to first just have the conversation, make sure we understand where you all are coming from so that we can put together some policies, all right?
So in your packet, what I shared with you were 2 board policies in regards to instructional materials. One was selecting and evaluating instructional materials, and the other was the .11, focused on supplemental instructional materials. And what I did in the policy that you have is I highlighted some key phrases, and then what we did is we went through a process of looking at those 2 policies side by side and identifying what were the commonalities between the 2 policies, because they're probably more similar than they are different. And so some of the things that I wanted to highlight for you in regards to the similarities of those 2 policies is, one, both of them call for when we have materials, whether or not they're adopted core materials or supplemental, they do need to be aligned with state standards and or Common Core state standards. They do the materials that you pick to present in a classroom, whether or not they're adopted by the board or used as a supplemental material by a teacher, they need to be related to the course at hand. So if it's mathematics, it needs to be related to the concepts in math, language arts, or any of the curriculum. Both processes call for expert input and feedback. And so you know what it looks like when we do a full adoption. Where we have groups of individuals that are vetting the materials, experts in the field, and most often those are educational experts, which are classroom teachers, administrators, or individuals from the instruction department. And in both, there's always an opportunity to give feedback on the alignment of the materials chosen that are taking place as a part of classroom instruction. We want to make sure that any material that we use in classrooms have educational value and that they are appropriate and relevant for our community, for the age in which we are presenting the information. So that's where there's a lot of alignment between these 2 policies. In regards to BP 6161.1, and I apologize, BP, what? Peanut butter?
Here it's PB. Yeah.
It is,
yeah.
And that's what I was just going to say.
Okay.
So I apologize, and we didn't catch that. As I was looking at it, it does say in your packet, PB, and I flipped it for you tonight. And so it is a board policy. The one thing the board policy calls for is that process for adoption, where we encourage participation from all stakeholders, from the school site to the community to the district level. We need to ensure that there are subject matter experts that are an integral part of the process. And so we want to make sure that the individuals that are vetting the materials and giving us input at one level, especially when we get to the point where we're recommending it, actually have that content knowledge. We want to ensure that there is stakeholder engagement at a variety of levels. And I think our most recent movement with our human growth and development that we went through this year is one example of very, very robust stakeholder engagement. And then we want to make sure that with our materials that they are available for public to look at. They have the right to look at the materials that are being used in the classroom. even with supplemental materials, if a parent were to say, I want to look at the materials to a teacher, the parents have a right to look at the materials that are being presented in a classroom. So then what we'd like you to consider, and again, no decisions, but we'd like you to have a discussion today about, there are some things that we could possibly do, because there are more similarities than differences when we look at these two policies, is one, you could read them over the summer and say, you know what, they're fine the way they are, let's leave them as is and not make any types of policy modifications. They are, certainly the board policy .1 is in line with what CSBA and Gamut recommends. We could modify each policy to reflect the desires of the board. And then the third option would be to really just merge both of the policies together into one board policy, 6161.1, and have that reflect the current desires of the board. What we wanted to have a discussion about today would be the possibility of just doing, because they're so aligned, and in a board policy we can individualize it as needed, but to think about merging the two policies, because what we can say is in both of them we want to have content experts that are making decisions about the curriculum that we're using in the classroom. We want to ensure that there is board engagement when we're doing a full adoption. And we want to make sure that families or stakeholders have the opportunity to give input and to view the curriculum being used. And what we would consider, we'd like you to consider adding, is that in the event that it's supplemental, that it's not something that is considered core, but it is a material that comes with a mandate. So I think our human growth and development is a perfect one. The state has mandated, or an act has mandated, what needs to be in that curriculum. Even though it's not considered a core curriculum, it would technically be supplemental. Anytime it comes with a mandate, we would go through a process similar to, identical to that board adoption process of a core curriculum, where we would make sure that there was a transparent process in vetting the materials and curriculum, reviewing it, stakeholder engagement, and then also recommendations to the board in a public meeting. And so for that, what we would like to entertain is, do you have some clarifying questions about either of the policies, or we'd like to hear what your thinking is as we sort of move into the summer. And I think Craig and I will both try to respond as needed.
So before, thank you, Leslie, very much. Before we break into a discussion, like Leslie says, does anyone have any questions about what she said that's unclear, or ready to talk about it? Okay. Ready to talk? Okay. So who wants to say something?
I would like to make the recommendation that we adopt the recommendation policy merge, because I like everything that Leslie presented. It makes so much sense.
Hold on one sec. Can you put that up while we're talking, the recommendation? Okay, thanks. Sorry, Angela.
And so that, they can come back with the merged policy at our next meeting, which would be in August or whenever it's convenient, so that in the future, any of the adoptions we do, we would be following this policy process.
Any thoughts?
I do. I also like the notion of merging the documents. There are a couple of things I'd like you to take a look at as you're looking at the merge. In one of the documents, I believe it's 61.1, there's a paragraph that says the district may pilot, and I think it should say shall pilot. However, I read it differently than Craig did. I read it to mean that we may do an adoption without piloting any material at all. Craig read it to mean something different, which I'm sure he'll tell you in a minute. So I'd like that to be sort of made more clear as to what, because I think we should pilot everything, my opinion. And then in 61.11, and I know you're going to merge them, but there's one paragraph that begins with the words as appropriate, and I'm not comfortable with that because I don't know what appropriate means, and I don't know who makes that decision. So I think that needs to be more clear as well. And when we look at supplemental materials, I would like for the board to have a higher level of involvement in in the selection of supplemental materials than we've had in the past. And I don't know exactly what that looks like, but maybe you guys can figure that out. And
I'm sorry, more involvement of
in the
who
looking
though?
at supplemental materials.
Even though it's not
Who are you saying would have more
The
involvement?
board.
Okay.
The board, yeah. And then also, another paragraph that I'd like you to look at is the one that says that if a teacher is going to use, or if it says an employee, I think, is going to use a supplemental material, they need to have it vetted through the superintendent or the superintendent's designee. And I think some decisions need to be made around what that looks like, because some of the materials that teachers will use, clearly they're not going to run to their principal every time they have something to supplement.
Correct.
So there needs to be a value judgment there on what requires that and what doesn't. And I don't know how much of that needs to be in the policy, but I'd like you to have a look at it. Thank you.
Thank you, Phyllis. Leanne, do you have any comments, or do you agree with this recommendation of the policy merge?
It looks good, and Phyllis raised some really good point. And but regarding pilot, I'm not so sure if for supplemental, we want to pilot everything. So might be okay if it's per superintendent decision, or should the board decide? If maybe the board can decide if we want to pilot or not, but not we have to pilot every time.
I don't think it's the board's decision whether or not they pilot. I think they should pilot.
You think
That's just my opinion.
Even for supplemental?
Yes.
I think one of the things we want to
is that
consider in this
practical?
policy is defining what supplemental is, because like you said, Phyllis, there's certain things. So for example, if you're going to use the curriculum from Marcy Cook, it's not necessarily board adopted, but is it aligned to the standards? Is it something that's appropriate for students? That would probably be something that wouldn't fall under the board to approve, which is why we added, when we really look at law and mandates changing, or even hot topics that are happening, where you would say that if you're looking at curriculum district-wide that would address a mandate, that those would be supplemental materials that we as a board would like to be more engaged in, whether or not you pilot or not. And so we can work some of those things out. Okay.
So how about this? Go ahead, Leanne.
Can I ask a clarification?
Yeah.
So you are suggesting it's supplemental material even without mandated by the state. You
So
would
let me
still
give you an
like the
example.
board to decide?
If we end up doing the reading program, the Reader's Workshop program that a lot of the schools are interested in, I don't believe it has a very good phonics program, and I don't believe it has a very good program for how to teach kids how to read. I think it's great for comprehension, but kindergarten first graders that are learning how to read, I think it's not very strong there. So I'm guessing that the teachers are going to say we need something more in the area of maybe phonics or word development or whatever it is. So if we're going to get a supplemental phonics or whole language or whatever is decided is best program for all of our kids, I think that needs to be piloted.
But Phyllis, wouldn't that be part of a core anyway? And so it would fall under the top things. It won't be.
Well, I'm not
true
sure if
supplement.
that would be core or supplement. I don't know.
Well, that's why maybe defining
Right.
supplement would
Right.
help.
So here's what I think we can do. I think we mostly all agree with the policy merge, and you can bring it back in August with some of Phyllis's suggestions. I agree with some of them I need to think about, and Kristen will be here. So if you come up with the policy merge with her ideas, then we can discuss it deeper once it's there. And like you said, we need to define what supplemental is before we can have the discussion of how much involvement the board should have, or if we should pilot. So does that sound like a good plan?
It does. I would like to raise the point that Phyllis talked about the May pilot, just so I get conceptually, not to get too down into it, but how that sentence reads is, the district may pilot instructional materials using a representative sample of classrooms. So there's two things going on. One is saying may pilot, so putting somewhere that we expect piloting to go on and that's a good practice is one thing, but this is actually saying was trying to give permission for doing representative sampling, which means certain kids are getting something that other kids are not, which is often a fine practice as long as the materials you're practicing with or piloting with are considered to be of quality, but some districts don't allow for representative sampling, and that's what the may was in relation, right? But we can say shall pilot, and they may use representative sampling. I think that's what the intent of this was here. That wasn't real clear. So I just want to make sure people understand there's two different issues at play here, and if this board does object, and we can do this when we bring it back later and have the conversation, but I just wanted to clarify, if you're going to have a problem with the notion of representative sampling as a way of going about piloting, well then we'll talk about it at that time, but that is actually different from conceptually, do you think it's a good idea in general for all materials to do piloting of sorts? That was the clarification I wanted to make.
So I have I guess 3 points. First is here in 16.1, all recommended instructional materials shall be available for public inspection. I think the problem we had last year was the committee recommended one curriculum, and then it was put out for public viewing, but everyone saw one. The board saw one. And when that one didn't work out, we didn't have a second one to fall back on. So I'm wondering, should we say maybe there should be 2 or more recommended, and so that we at least have 2 always that we can choose from. Then at least 2 would be for public viewing, and then we decide on one. So that is not like rubber stamping one that's available. So I don't know how best to rephrase that.
Can I make a comment on that? If we're going to have a committee and we're going to trust the committee to do this, I know this may not be the place to discuss it until the policy comes back, but if we're having a committee and they're vetting out the curriculum or whatever the material, I don't know why we want to second guess it if they have spent the time and come up with that one that they could, and they've spent the time and come up with the recommendation.
If the committee is a board-appointed Brown Act committee, that will conduct the business in the open transparency, and then that committee may make a recommendation to the board, but it's still the board's decision which curriculum to use. And especially for the human growth, it was a closed superintendent committee. And whatever recommendation they make inside the committee, if that's the final recommendation, basically we are making decision in closed door, and then you are asking the board to rubber stamp a closed meeting decision that's made inside the closed meeting. I think that violates Brown Act.
But it wasn't a board committee, but we
it's
should
not
move
the trust
forward.
or not.
We should move away
decision
forward.
still has to be rest in the board.
Right. We need to move forward, and we're talking about how we're going to do things in the future. So that's why the question was, do we need, if it's a committee, do we need them to come back with 2 recommendations, is what I'm expressing my opinion on. I'm not talking about what happened in the past. It's better if we can move forward and see how we're going to do things in the future.
So you are saying you don't need the committee to give the board a choice at all?
Okay, so
you are comfortable with only one choice?
Well, I'd like to recommend that you let us play around with some wording, because I think it's my belief that this board does believe, and I do, that as much as possible, the real preference is to always have more than one option for the board and for community to review. That's what we'd want to do. I hope we'd also want to not waste everybody's time when everything else is dreck and there's only one thing, that a group of experts and a committee have said, we really looked at this long and hard. We think it's why would we put it forth and waste people's time? Especially if you're going to pilot something that, and this gets back to, are you going to do representative piloting with something that nobody thinks is actually good, Right, so I think we can make some wording that clarifies what you're getting at, which is that at all times we do everything we can to put before our community and the board multiple options to pilot and to look at, so that we're not looking at one thing in isolation, that doesn't feel right. So I think we'll find some wording that you can look at and we'll play with when we come back together and look at it.
So another thing is here. It's guess kind of my second point is, if we have multiple choice, I hope that there will be a comparison and contrast between the curriculum, so that the board has more information to make decision on in the public. And
just a quick point of order, that's not about us bringing back a policy. That's going to be a conversation after that. So
that's not part of the policy?
No, we wouldn't put in policy something like that, right? Because that's more of a regulation or something, a process thing. This is just trying to get information to help us write something to bring back to you that we think will get close enough that we can have a conversation or debate about it.
So here it does say from the pilot, inside the paragraph about piloting, the last sentence, feedback from teachers piloting the material shall be made available to the board before the materials are adopted.
And in our process of adopting materials, we do give you that feedback. We give you the surveys, the information from any of the pilot teachers. I mean, that's part of that board engagement process. We'll turn over as much information as we possibly can when we are making a recommendation along with the data collected.
Yeah, so that I like, I hope we keep that. Yeah, and then another thing is about, so I like that with supplemental material that's mandated by the state, we have a more transparent board adoption process. And then regarding whether the teacher would be able to then supplement on their own, I think there are sometimes teachers do supplement a material that they feel is good for their class. But in the case when it's mandated by the state, I hope that such material would be, the teacher would only use material that's approved by the board. Yeah, just to be safe.
That's how we would write it.
Yeah, okay.
So just one more quick comment to Anjali's point. I think we have to pay attention to what the experts say. I mean, our teachers and our principals and our administrators in this district are experts in instruction. I don't think we are. So I think we have to pay attention to what they feel is going to be the best for kids, and I hope that the policy will reflect that as well.
Okay, so we look forward to seeing the merged policy and having a discussion about that in August.
So the public, I think the public engagement process that's in the merged policy, we currently have this policy that we put it on the display for 2 weeks and then collect feedback.
That's not in the policy.
So that's not policy, right? I'm just curious. And then we have public hearing and then we adopt. That's not the board policy. So is that written anywhere? Is that the AR?
I don't. Do we have an AR?
Do
on
we?
We do have an AR to this.
Well, why don't we just say when we come back, we will bring for reference the AR, and then we can talk about. In fact, we will already have looked at the AR in relation to revising the policy to say what are the things we might have to shift in it. So we'll bring that back.
So the community engagement process would be outlined in the AR.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
And it's also outlined from the County Office of Education. So when you go through an adoption, they walk you through sort of that timeline and what are the things that you need to make sure that you're doing and the length of time to ensure that you have ample feedback. Yep. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Leslie. Okay, we're going to move to the action items. Leanne, can you pass the fruit bucket to the EC?
Yeah,
they can eat during the action item.
There's enough to pass it through the audience, too.
This is in honor of Chris. I want to see him eating one.
So do we bring that 5.1 5.9 as the first action item? So
yes.
I move 5.9.
8.
No, 5.9.
No, just 5.9.
Right, can I bring that as a 5, or do I have to turn it into an 8?
It's 8.0. It'll be our first
8.0.
one. That's
okay.
fine, yeah.
Okay. So first
I move
action.
8.0.
Yeah, 8.0. Action item, Measure H. Measure H, what do we call that?
It's the bond one.
Yeah.
Did you
Revision to
make the
Measure H
motion?
bond
Yeah, revision
program.
to
budget.
I
Measure
second.
H bond program. Okay. Anjali moves, Phyllis second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Okay, thank you guys. 8.1, approval of LCAP. May I have a motion?
I move 8.1.
Anjali moves. May I have a second?
I second.
Liang seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0.
Okay, just take a second to thank the team that worked so hard, Leslie, and I know Jeff, and probably everybody, Chris, Stacy, but so many people. It's a
LCAP.
lot, yeah, on the LCAP. Just so much goes into it. So.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you,
8.2, approval of the declaration of need for fully qualified educators for the 2018-19 school year. May I have a motion?
I move.
Phyllis moves. And may I have a second?
I second.
Anjali second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. 8.3, approval of adoption budget for fiscal year 2018-19. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Liang moves. May I have a second?
Second.
Anjali second. Also would like to thank all the people who worked on that, including Dorothy, who's here tonight. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. 8.4, ratification of the tentative agreements between CUSD and CEA. Now you set a precedent we got to always thank, because a lot of people worked on a lot of these things. So thank you for the rest of the action items, everyone. Okay, may I have a motion for 8.4?
I move.
Phyllis moves. May I have a second?
I second.
Anjali second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. 8.5, ratification of tentative agreements between CUSD and CSEA. May I have a motion?
I move.
Phyllis moves. May I have a second?
Second.
Liang second. Any further discussion? Motion. All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. A lot of people worked hard on that one. 8.6, ratification of the tentative agreements between CUSD and SEIU.
I move.
I second.
Anjali moves. Phyllis second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Approval of job description and salary range coordinators, STEAM, 8.7. May I have a motion?
I move.
Phyllis moves. Second?
Second.
No, just hold on.
I second.
Any further discussion?
Yes. Well, first from staff, I believe it was Liang brought up that if you look at the job description, it doesn't really delineate enough about qualification of this person in relation to STEM, STEAM, background and experience. Take this
A 3-minute park public comment from Mark Lundy.
To the punch, but I'm going to speak anyway. I rushed over here from a really cool maker meeting over at Krause Center for Innovation, and missed the first part of the meeting. We're going to miss you, Chris. Evening, members of the board, Dr. Baker, executive staff. I'm gratified to see that the Maker Ed is mentioned in the job description for STEAM coordinator. While I realize that specific experience in science, technology, engineering, art, or math are not explicitly mentioned in the job description, those traditional curricular verticals are baked into the CV expectations of any administrators. But Maker Ed is the relatively new kid on the block. You know, I've seen programs that identified maker spaces as something that they should have. But when they don't understand the educational fundamentals underpinning maker spaces, those spaces end up being underused or used inexpertly, and the efforts flounder. When done well, Maker Ed provides a fertile medium for the thriving of all curricula, from social studies to music to physical education, not just STEAM. While I'm anxious to meet and work with whoever we select, I am asking that we pause just a bit more, and it sounds like some previous pausing has already been done. And I ask that the board direct staff to modify the STEAM coordinator job description to include a statement preferring candidates who have worked in an educational environment that included an integral, vibrant Maker Ed program. And by the way, the currently generally accepted style is to write Makerspace as one word. And thank you for anticipating that, Dr. Baker and staff and board.
Did that, so.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I know that we talked about it, staff did earlier too, that the reality is when we post the position, we're going to be very clear about what we're needing, and ultimately that's what's going to make the big difference, is that we hire somebody who actually can address all the things that we really need. And so often your job description is meant to be, you'll never get to cover everything. It's meant to be good enough to give a good sense of what the responsibilities and background are. And I do think we were remiss in not having those in, but I hope you'll be willing to pass this, because we do have to make some decisions pretty quickly around these, and we can always adjust it. You know, the truth is we can change job descriptions and bring them back if we feel we need to.
So do I amend the motion to say included as presented?
I suggest edit. It seems demonstrates an ability to integrate makerspace concepts into the core curriculum. That should be under qualification, right? So these things, it's not a responsibility what they are going to do. Qualification should be some experience they already have. So that was, I'm hoping that distinguish. We want someone who already have experience with makerspace and STEAM and leadership in STEAM and Maker, right?
And I think that was your intent, Craig, right? To put put the new things under qualifications that they already have, not what they're going to do.
Right. Well, and certainly the ability to integrate makerspace concepts into the core curriculum I think we wrote them in a way that they could be placed in responsibility, but I do understand that in a sense these were meant to be the qualities and background qualifications that they have, that they come in with expertise in STEAM, STEM, et cetera. So
I think 14, 16 can go to qualification. 15 is kind of a responsibility.
Yeah. And I think that's fine. I think it'd be easy for us to just move those down and leave 15 where it is, move the other 2 down. And again, I think just for purposes of being able to move forward with hiring and things that we need to do, it would be helpful for us to pass this in some form like that, and we can always bring it back for revision at a later date as well.
So the master's degree in related field, I still feel that's a little too vague. I know that the understanding it's related to STEAM, but could we just qualify it a little bit? Related to teaching or related to science?
To the field of science, to STEAM.
Engineering?
Yeah. Yes, to all of it.
Related to STEAM.
Is it something
I
that
feel
we
like I'm
need
getting to a level of wordsmithing on something that is not normally what we would do as a board, unless you're objecting to the concept of it. And again, happy to bring back another one, and next time we bring it back, we can make note of that and bring it with some changes to it.
I just
but we want to get this out for the summer. But I agree with Liang. Like, the intent was to have those qualifications and not responsibility. So if we can make a new motion to approve this as amended with moving 14 and 16 to qualifications. We have a motion for that?
I move.
Anjali moves. May I have a second? Phyllis seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0.
Great, thank you.
8.8, approval of job description and salary range, coordinator, data systems, and programmers. May I have a motion?
I move
Liang moves. May I have a second?
Second.
Anjali, second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. 8.9, adoption of 2017-18 retroactive and 2018-19 new salary schedules. May I have a motion?
I move 8.9.
Anjali moves. May I have a second?
I second.
Phyllis seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. 8.10. May I have a motion?
I move.
Phyllis moves. May I have a second?
I second.
Anjali second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. 8.11. May I have a motion?
I move.
Phyllis moves. May I have a second?
Second.
Liang second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. 8.12, adoption of resolution number 171836. May I have a motion?
I move.
Anjali moves. May I have a second? Phyllis second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. 8.13. May I have a motion?
I move.
Anjali moves. May I have a second?
Second.
Liang second.
They were just haphazard about it.
Liang second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. 8.14, adoption of resolution number 171837. May I have a motion?
I move.
Phyllis moves. May I have a second?
I second.
Anjali second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0.
Okay, next one's all yours, Liang. Go ahead.
And may I have a motion for 8.15?
I move.
Liang moves. May I have a second?
Yes, I second.
I can actually second too. Liang moves. Phyllis second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Good job, Soma.
Any motion passes 4-0. Okay.
Excellent.
9.1, board and superintendent activity. Anyone care to share anything?
I just want to wish everybody a happy summer and wonderful school year. Thank you, Dr. Baker.
Yes, Lisa. Yeah.
And staff.
And future agenda items.
I just wanted to say, I thought graduation went swimmingly. I was at Cupertino Middle, and it was great. And I saw a couple of former students, and that was fun.
So can I add to that? I went to 2 schools. I went to Miller and to Hyde, and it was really nice. And both the graduations were wonderful.
Thank you for going to 2.
So I went to the CLIP graduation, but then I messed up the time for the Kennedy Middle School graduation. I thought it starts at 6, like the CLIP graduation. Somehow I had that on my calendar, and then it started at 4. So by the time I got there, I saw people leaving. So, but then that day I went to actually went to Sacramento that day for a special needs action day. So there are with friends with children with special needs, they are advocating for the states to provide extra funding because the rising living costs and everything, so they are facing some trouble. And also, I attended in May. I attended a fundraiser hosted by Able to Shine. It's also for special needs and the children with cancer. And then I went to the retired teacher reception that we celebrated a lot of very, very experienced teacher who worked from 21 years to 38 years in the district. Yeah, it's sad to lose these teachers, and I hope they come back for a substitute. And then I went to a Rokana roundtable for educators that I think Jeff was there also, and it's everyone talk about what kind of issues we are facing, so special aid, and these are all brought up that we hope that federal government can provide some funding for us. And then, yeah, so that's
Thank you. Superintendent, activity?
I'll have none for right now, but want to give my sincerest thank you to this board for hiring me and the community members who convinced you to do it. And it really has been one of the most rewarding years of my career, and I'm enjoying the work so much and really appreciate it. Special thanks to Chris for all he has done for this district, and all of EC. Thank you for you know, welcoming me, and to the parents, the teachers, everybody. It's just been a really fabulous year, and I look forward to the next one.
So we will be, the next item is future agenda items. Does EC want to say? They don't get to say anything at the closing. Board and superintendent activities. So, okay, future agenda items.
I think we already did that.
Okay, so is
Closed
it,
session?
we'll be adjourning to closed session at,
Comment on any public comment if you ask it.
oh yeah, is there any public comment on closed session?
Closed session, yeah. But I don't think we don't have any. No.
Okay, so at 7:42, we're adjourning to closed session.
You know,
You're ready.
Well, it's 7:58 and we are returning from closed session. We have nothing to report. And is there anything else on the agenda? I just closed my.
I think it's done after.
We'll be back in August.
And we're also going to close this meeting in honor of Chris. Chris, thank you again for everything. Okay, meeting adjourned at 7:58.